I'm no expert nor historian, but what I can tell you should be the same that every Reachman would recite when speaking of those savages. Accounts state that this new incarnation of the Witchman appeared near 2 decades back, just after the incident at Munster. You haven't heard of it either. I feel like I'll be going over the history of every blade of grass in the Reach. I digress. Munster was an abandoned fort far to the north that has since succumbed to its frozen locale. Peasants, serfs, and other seditious souls had made a great exodus under the cover of night, all leaving their fields, abandoning the lords they were sworn to serve. Of course, when all your labor, thus wealth, absconds in but a moment, there will be tremors. So the lords had sent men to trail these wayward workers all the way to Munster. What they saw was an ostensibly bizarre affair, both witchmen and peasants forming a decadent commune, many turning to layabouts who engaged in petty pleasures and shirking the labor that had made them. I see you're not one for absorbing the finer details of a conversation. This was before they had all turned feral. Not to say they weren't savage before, but that former identity was ultimately harmless, unlike those you see now. The lords eschewed violence at first, instead opting to subvert the commune, freeing their scum and exiles northward, with the condition that they go live in Munster. The hope was that the delusional dreamers of that town would abandon their fickle want for equality once extreme personalities had entered their midst. To our utter astonishment, they didn't. These scum that would haunt our societies were either subsumed into the mix or blocked from entry, leading many to evaluate the true intent of these radicals. We thought they were just pacifists who'd allow any and all into their ranks, which would spell doom for any gathering. Panic-stricken, many lords conspired, finally pushing for the siege that would be that commune's undoing. Cutting off food, digging extensive tunnels to both poison their wells and revealing more avenues for attack. Lastly, clear diplomacy, to impart some reason into those serfs, enough for them to return to civilization and abandon these naive ideals. The lords saw the beneficiaries within Munster, a gathering of hag ravens who were prolonging the siege to impossible lengths. Then crumbs of discontent were found among the militia. Fear gripped the nobility that these ideas could spread to every serf. Nobility, not just from Evermore, but from all over High Rock, sent aid when they heard how severe the crisis was. All of High Rock seemingly united to crush this small town. Yet only a Luddite would think so simply. This was to crush an idea, a canker that'd undo the very world we haven. So the Lord's strength was honed into one blow, throwing all their might at those walls. They fell, and what mercy we would have spared upon those misguided serfs was instead replaced with conviction to stamp out a chaotic ideology. No. They, however, did. To the last man, woman, and child, a Pyrrhic victory in the truest sense. Evermore had lost half its serf class, yet the lords were elated that the existential crisis of revolution was averted. Exceptionally harsh measures were put in place for anyone that even uttered the commune's name, or who dared to evoke the same rebellious sentiments. And so that concludes the tale of Munster. Almost lost myself in another tale. Maybe because that question isn't as easily answered. Bear with me, as what follows can drift into conjecture. Rumors from the nobility in that siege reported seeing figures watching the slaughter unfold in the town. neither part of the kingdom's militia or the defendants. Scouts were dispatched to see who the strange party was, and upon their return they displayed strange idols, with the scouts claiming them as gifts from those shady silhouettes, though their names or identities were never disclosed. Most of the nobility had discarded these charms immediately, except for that wretched Mortifane, who was enamored by that hideous amulet that still wrings his filthy neck. If I could tell you, then we'd already be halfway to a solution by now, but that's where my knowledge ends. I hope you enjoyed the tale. It's always a guilty pleasure to recite when the low-born are acting up.